Tom Crawford. It's the Dean Transportation on the Road Tour. We are at the Bluegill Grill, 1591 Lake Lansing Road. Tom, have you had time to peruse the menu yet?
Pretty much kind of ingrained in my brain. I'll figure something.
You did 130 shows in a row here. You should know the menu, right?
Yeah, the menu now. A
few new items. Okay, I got you.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to welcome in, as we do each Thursday, from our remote location, Lindsay Huddleston. And he is the founder of Sports Psychology Solutions, native Detroiter, based in Lansing. He's been an author, teacher, coach, corporate lobbyist, and national speaker for USA Basketball. And we want to talk about the brain game.
Yes.
Welcome back, Lindsay.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about the psychology of rain delays. Because we've had issues with this.
And we're going to have an issue on Saturday.
Have an issue on Saturday, you say, right?
Think so.
Sure, I think sure. You know, rain delays are interesting. I had a client who's competing for 2020 in the Olympics track and field, and they experienced a rain delay recently, and I think it worked out to our benefit because coming out of that rain delay, they were able to medal. But I think the key was I got really nervous when I was watching on TV and I saw it, and I communicated with them and said, hey, just stay focused, relax, it's okay. I think that's the key thing. Rain delays, Super Bowl halftime shows, there's always, you know, this big extension that you have to be prepared for.
You have to have food, you got to warm up. I mean, we had Terry Bowden on here about 3-4 weeks ago. Yes, the coach at the University of Akron. Their season opener was at Lincoln, Nebraska, played Akron.
Right.
Or they played Nebraska, Akron against Nebraska, and they had the rain delay, and they finally called the game off at 10:45, and they had been in the locker room laying around, waiting for this thing to happen, and it didn't even happen. The game was canceled.
Sure.
What a letdown that would be. You travel all the way out there.
Oh, sure, it's tough, and the question is how, as a coach and the staff, what page are you on? And it's like if the rain delay happens and no one has a plan in mind as far as how they want to approach it, everyone's kind of got to go their own way mentally as well as physically. I think the key thing is to stay locked in the moment, to stay comfortable. You may have to ratchet down your intensity a little bit for the sake of you don't know how long we're going to be in this space, but it definitely is a mental aspect, and it's almost something that coaching needs to address prior to that. You know, what can you talk about in the pregame and say, hey, in the event that we have this will be our protocol.
Right.
That way people can have confidence in knowing what they're
That's attention to detail, and I think Penn State did not have that plan in place last year.
Right.
They're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and Michigan State, well, as the home team, has more resources.
Sure, it helps.
So it favors the home team, in my opinion.
It helps. And experience has an impact, but I'm sure going forward, any school that's experienced something like that will be proactive, you hope, in the protocol for next year. You almost wonder if Michigan State and Coach D'Antonio had experienced that before to know what attitude to take. But it's all about what's the game plan for things going awry and being able to prepare for that.
And some coaches, some school programs seem to thrive in bad conditions. Michigan State under D'Antonio is a very good bad weather team.
Yeah,
sure.
I think back to not just Michigan last year, Tom, but remember the Utah game?
How about the Ohio State game in Columbus?
There you go.
Well, you know, the Geiger game-winning field goal.
Sure.
They had a backup, Tyler O'Connor's backup quarterback, and they knocked out the number 2 team in the nation at the time on the road.
Sure.
You know, you're not letting the weather get into your mind.
You can't. I think it has a lot to do with the leader. I mean, all eyes are going to be on the leader first and foremost, and if the leader embodies stoicism that Coach D'Antonio embodies, I think that helps. But if you have someone who's frantic, who's not really sure of themselves, and sometimes the body language puts that out there despite what your words are, you can say, well, he's not locked in, what should I be doing? But I think it's a definite reflection on the leader. It goes down to the other coaches and impacts the players.
Let me give you one other example, and it wasn't a weather delay, Tom, but it was a delay. It was in the Super Bowl when the power went out.
Oh, the Niners.
I really think the Niners would have won that Harbaugh Bowl.
Sure.
And instead, the Ravens, San Francisco had all the momentum.
Right. You're right about that. And that was huge. And who expects that? Like I said earlier, you talk about the Super Bowl, you can expect that long halftime show. Who expects it to be a power outage, to go for however long? But it comes back to the mental toughness. How can you stay locked in? And I'll be curious, what the older Harbaugh brother said to his team. And he said, hey, it doesn't matter. This is still our opportunity. And they being the underdogs, who knows? Did they use it as a sign? Did the 49ers get a little, nervous because something else had impacted what was going on? And again, it goes back to the leader. What attitude is the leader taking? Had it not been that power outage, maybe you wouldn't be rooting for the current coach down in Michigan right now.
Well, that's true. And the thing about sudden change, just like in a game when you get a turnover, a defense has to react right off. They're sitting down all of a sudden. It's the same thing. People that can behave and stay disciplined on the fly.
Right.
Just like the delays or conditions that are not optimum. When you're a wide receiver and it's raining out, driving rain, you got to lock in your attitude, right?
Sean McMahon, who is the U.S. Olympic Committee in sports psychologist, I was on a webinar with him some time ago. He made an excellent point as far as the Olympics. You train for 4 years to prepare for this big event. And what he says is that the event is the same, but then it's not. I'll go figure how you're supposed to process that, but it's like you plan all these years to play the same sport, the same game. But when that one day comes, there's so many other unique things that go into it. So it takes a level of mental toughness to be able to stay in there and almost to say, what's going to happen? I have to be prepared for something else to happen. It's not that you're wishing for something to happen, but can you be prepared when something kind of comes up? There's always a story. I've heard things about Olympic athletes not getting the food that they needed at the time because they were in such a remote location. So imagine if you've been training and in your bag you had everything you needed, but now you go to this remote location, all of a sudden you don't have that. What does that say? How do you respond to that? So it's almost like be prepared for the worst that can happen and train your best going forward. That's a good message.
Lindsay Huddleston, he is the founder of Sports Psychology Solutions, SPS, not to be confused with SPS, another sponsor, right? But Lindsay, I want to follow up on that, and there are many more teams that don't make the high school playoffs in football than do. You have to have 6 wins.
Right.
A few teams
What
might
is that
get
number?
in.
Is there a percent? Is it like 40% make it, 60% don't? Do you know what that number? I'm curious to know what that number is.
I think it's
And it might vary.
about a third make it.
It's the same number because if they go down to 5, if they.
And it's about 35%.
35%. Okay, so you're up to 35%. That's a heck of an accomplishment.
If it was just teams that were 6 and above, then it would probably be exactly a third, but there are also a few 5-win teams that sneak in.
Right.
So let's say you are a coach or you are a player, captain of a team, and right now your record is 2-4. Tough. You got to play these last 3 games. You're going to have some people looking ahead to winter sports. Some people saying, I'm not going to get hurt. Last thing I'm going to do, I'm a baseball player. I'm not getting hurt in some meaningless football game in late October. So how do you handle that?
That's tough, and it's unfortunate that someone takes that approach. That's what makes me think about the reframing process. You have to reframe that as a coach, as a player. You can say, well, this is your last game. What will be your story when someone approaches you years from now to talk about your high school career? Will you be able to refer back to that experience and that game?
That's an interesting challenge you make yourself.
It is, but I think what that does is put the onus on the individual instead of you feeling like you have to be the person to give them a great message. So now it's the burden that they have to carry.
Right.
Especially when we have guys who have that football physique, so for the rest of their years, people ask what sport did you play? It's like you're going to be held accountable and you want to answer that question in the affirmative. So that could be another reason to motivate them. As a coach, you really want to talk about the culture. And the hope is that you're not creating a new culture at the latter part of the season, but they can be consistent and be a carryover into the next season. But it's really all about being present for that individual game and getting the best out of that game and moving forward no matter what.
So Lindsay, in these talks with these high school programs, is there any consistent takeaway, challenges that high school programs are going through right now that seems to be consistent?
Sure, you and I kind of touched on that subject a little bit offline earlier. What I have taken in that is very important that along with the expectations, there have to be consequences. Consequences doesn't mean berating a player or something like that. But if you set an expectation for your team and it's not met, there needs to be some burn that a person feels, because we're not doing these young men or young women a service if we let them out into the real world without experiencing expectations and consequences. So that's the one thing I got, and I think that even if you're that 2-14 right now and you're not able to kind of get over the hump, you still can teach some lifelong lessons to these young men and women that they will remember years from now. On a collegiate level, I remember Candace Parker, a great player in the WNBA. She played for the legendary Pat Summitt, where they had a home game in Candace's hometown in the greater Chicago area, and I think Candace blew a curfew. She stayed out late, didn't show up, and Pat Summitt, as we all know, said that's not going to work, and she benched her.
Wow.
And she says to that day that still was an experience that really helped her. So I still think that despite the record being dismal, there's still monumental life lessons that can be learned, and it's really up to those coaches and staff to dig in, stay committed, and be an example.
Are the coaches making that commitment as much as they do
I think
in the
it's
past?
tough. I think it's tough because they're human. They're human, and they look at the record, they see what's going on, and it's really about, can you have a leader that can pull people back in, and you really can't just sprinkle that around. It's a daily process. It's like bathing. You can bathe Monday, that won't get you to the whole week. At least for some of us, we want to stay on top of that. So I think it's really about blocking out the noise, as difficult as that may be, staying focused and present in the moment, and looking at the individual wins that happen just by pushing these young people along.
Our guest is Lindsay Huddleston, Sports Psychology Solutions. Lindsay, I think just about every athlete I've interviewed who's been extremely successful has had some adversity, some significant moment in their life where they have gotten through it, and that's propelled them. Michael Jordan being cut from his high school.
Exactly.
Tom Izzo missing that free throw. I mean, it almost without fail. The one example where I don't think he ever failed until he really failed was Tiger Woods.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's a long way to go to carry that. And for that failure to be what it's taken approximately 5 years to kind of get back on top is tough. So it's almost like you want someone to do great, but I think it's important that you share with them what they need to do in the event that something does happen, because the inevitable is just there. And in this case, publicly, what we just saw was a great span of success until those private issues came out and kind of challenged everything that was happening. But I think he's gone through it. I think he's resourceful enough to be able to bring in enough positive information to get things right back on track. They promote him in the relationship that he's in. He's had this win, and you hope that he can just really carry that over to the next opportunities that he has.
I know you've talked about this before, but we want to give you another chance to do it.
Sure.
Can you explain flow to our listeners?
Yeah, I love flow, and it's really important, especially now when people are getting into those situations where it's going to be a big game decided by one play. Flow refers to the sports psychological term of optimal performance, of how you can put yourself in a position to perform at your best. And it brings up that term automaticity, just to be able to do things on automatic.
Automaticity?
Automaticity, just automatic.
Write that one down.
How you can just do it. Yeah, it's a 50-cent word.
And that's why playing multiple sports, I think, comes into play. Because if you're in a clutch environment in this sport, it makes the other
You can
sport.
relate it. You can do it like that. And I think the challenge is that so many people think about all the other things that could happen that may not likely happen. But if you can just stay focused in the moment, staying present, which is the key in mindfulness, and being non-judgmental, meaning don't judge yourself for the past mistake, the missed free throw prior to, or the missed catch, and just staying focused in the moment, and then you can kind of execute what you mentally rehearsed. But flow is really important. I think we all have the ability to put ourselves in a position to live in flow, whether it's through sports or through our life, but it's all about being present in the moment and non-judgmental and doing your best.
Lindsay Huddleston, Sports Psychology Consultant with Sports Psychology Solutions, and Tom, Automaticity, right?
Yeah.
That's what we get every time he's on the
For
show.
you to say.
Here it comes, here it comes.
Thanks so much for joining us.
As always.
We will be back, and we have more special guests in the house, and Jared Bell is going to try to join us before 6 o'clock. I'm thinking 5 days. his estimated time of arrival. We have Bob Fossum and Burton Smith over there, and we got the 1972 Lansing Sexton Championship golf team. Those guys are having too much fun over there. We'll be right back. It's a Drive with Jack and Tom Spotlight Radio Network.
Good stuff, Lindsay.
Good job.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No,
So I'll come over there when we're done.